was really going too far away from the stuff that we'd, the fans have grown up and grown to love.
September 6, 1989, the MTV Video Music Awards. Millions watching live as rock and roll's biggest night unfolds. Tom Petty is on stage, Guns N' Roses backing him up, the crowd going wild. Backstage, in the shadows just off stage left, Vince Neil is waiting.
So good to be back on stage and back playing rock and roll and seeing the fans out there, and it worked great.
His bandmates from Motley Crüe already left, but Vince stayed behind. He's got unfinished business. What happened next became one of the most infamous moments in rock history. A punch thrown in front of dozens of witnesses. A feud that would rage for years. Two of the biggest bands on the planet at each other's throats. But the real story behind that punch is way more complicated than anyone knows. Multiple versions, conflicting accounts, and secrets that stayed buried for decades.
So good to be back on stage and back playing rock and roll and seeing the fans out there, and it worked great.
Now at 64 years old, after surviving multiple strokes that nearly ended his life, Vince Neil's perspective on that night matters more than ever. Did Izzy Stradlin really assault Vince's wife? Was the punch justified? And what actually went down in those chaotic moments after Izzy walked off that stage? This is the story of one punch that defined a generation, the night the glam metal wars turned violent, and the untold details that finally make sense of it all. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand the world these bands lived in. The late 1980s Sunset Strip wasn't just a music scene, it was everything. The Whiskey A Go-Go, the Cathouse, the Roxy. Careers were made and destroyed within a few blocks. Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses were titans, both at absolute peak power. Motley Crue just released Dr. Feelgood, their biggest album ever. Guns N' Roses had Appetite for Destruction, one of the best-selling debuts of all time. These weren't up-and-comers, these were the kings. The Strip had its own rules. Everybody knew everybody. Band members jumped between groups. Slash almost ended up in Poison. It was incestuous, chaotic, incredibly competitive. Your band was your family, and if someone disrespected your family, there would be consequences. The parties were legendary. The excess was off the charts. Cocaine, heroin, alcohol, women, all available, all the time. Izzy Stradlin was deep into substance issues. Vince Neil was trying to stay sober but surrounded by temptation. The whole scene was a powder keg. And here's what people forget about that era. Violence wasn't just accepted, it was expected. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, who witnessed the punch, said it perfectly. If somebody said something bad about your band, you were obliged to punch them. It was considered totally appropriate. That was the code. So when Vince Neil heard what allegedly happened to his wife, he wasn't just angry. He was operating within a world where letting it slide meant weakness, where revenge wasn't just acceptable, it was mandatory. Vince Neil was Motley Crue's golden boy. That blonde hair, those good looks, a voice that defined glam metal. He wasn't just the frontman, he was the image. Girls, 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 Shout at the Devil, Dr. Feelgood. These songs made Vince a household name. By 1989, he was at the absolute peak of his career, but Vince's life was complicated. In 1984, he'd been involved in a car accident that killed Hanoi Rocks drummer, Razzle Dingley. Vince was driving drunk, lost control, took an innocent life. He served 15 days in jail, paid millions in restitution, and carried that guilt every single day. It changed him, made him more protective of the people he loved. By 1989, he was married to Sharise Ruddell. Sharise was a mud wrestler at the Hollywood Tropicana Club, a model who appeared in Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls video. She wasn't some quiet wife at home. She was out there, part of the scene, living the lifestyle alongside Vince. Sharise and her friends, including Brandy Brandt, who would later marry Nikki Sixx, called themselves the Broad Squad. These women were fixtures on the Sunset Strip, recognized everywhere. Then there's Izzy Stradlin, Jeffrey Dean Isbell from Lafayette, Indiana. He'd moved to LA with childhood friend Bill Bailey, who became Axl Rose. Small-town kids chasing the California dream. Izzy became rhythm guitarist for Guns N' Roses, and while Axl got spotlight and Slash got guitar hero worship, Izzy was the glue. He wrote or co-wrote their biggest songs. Patience, Think About You, half of Appetite for Destruction had Izzy's fingerprints, but Izzy had demons. By 1989, his substance issues were public knowledge, using heavily, drinking constantly. Just weeks before the MTV Awards, August 1989, Izzy made headlines for the wrong reasons. On a domestic flight, completely wasted, he relieved himself in the airplane aisle, in front of everyone. Police got involved. Izzy was arrested, humiliating, degrading, forcing him to confront what his life had become. That arrest was supposed to be a turning point. Izzy started trying to get sober, attending meetings, working on himself, but the timing was terrible, trying to change right as the Sharise incident was about to explode. Ricky Rachtman described Izzy as introverted, keeping to himself. That made the allegation so shocking. This wasn't Izzy's usual behavior, at least not sober Izzy, but drunk Izzy? Different person entirely. These two bands should have been brothers, both carrying the torch for hard rock when pop and hip-hop were taking over, both proving rock still mattered, but there was tension. Motley Crue had been around longer, 7 albums by 1989, felt like veterans who earned their place. Guns N' Roses came out of nowhere with Appetite for Destruction and exploded. One album, suddenly everywhere, raw, dangerous energy that felt new and vital. It created resentment. Motley Crue felt Guns N' Roses hadn't paid dues. Guns N' Roses felt Motley Crue was old guard holding on to relevance. Add drugs, alcohol, massive egos, pressure of being the biggest band simultaneously. Something was bound to explode. The question was when and how. The answer came one night at the most notorious club on the Sunset Strip. The Cathouse wasn't just another club, it was the club. Ricky Rachtman owned it, and if you were anyone in late 80s rock, you were there. Rock stars, models, celebrities packed in every night. Dark, loud, chaotic. Spring or early summer 1989. Vince Neil was away on a whitewater rafting trip in Idaho. He'd planned it specifically to stay sober, get away from LA temptations. 10 days of sunshine and rapids. While Vince was gone, Sharise and her friends went to the Cathouse. Brandy Brandt was with her. They were in the DJ booth with Ricky Rachtman, having a good time. Then Izzy Stradlin showed up. By all accounts, Izzy was messed up that night. Really messed up. Here's where stories diverge. According to Ricky Rachtman, Izzy walked up and grabbed Sharice's chest out of nowhere. No warning. Ricky said he was shocked, just stood there bewildered. Sharise smacked Izzy immediately. Sharice's version is more violent. She says Izzy was hitting on her. She told him to get his hands off because she was Vince's wife. She says Izzy grabbed her shirt and pulled it down. She slapped him, and then Izzy karate kicked her hard in the stomach, knocked the wind out of her. Everyone saw it. Izzy's side is completely different. He later claimed Sharise came on to him. He rejected her. He said she got physical first, and he just pushed her back with his foot. She fell down, tried to press charges, didn't show up to court. Izzy called Motley Crue lying cocksuckers. So who's telling the truth? Something physical happened. Multiple witnesses confirm that. But the exact details remain murky. What's not murky is when Vince got back from Idaho and called Sharise, she was in tears. She told him what happened. Vince's rage was instant and absolute. Nikki Sixx backed up the assault claim publicly. He said Izzy pulled Sharice's top off and kicked her in the stomach. Vince was going to press charges, but decided instead that next time he saw Izzy, he was going to clean his clock. Old school justice. Vince spent months seething. Every time he thought about it, the anger grew. His wife, allegedly assaulted by another rock star while he was trying to stay sober. The disrespect. The violation. In Vince's world, this couldn't stand. The code demanded a response. September 6th, 1989. MTV Video Music Awards at Universal Amphitheater. The biggest night in music. MTV at its peak. Everyone who mattered was there, broadcasting live to millions worldwide. Guns N' Roses won Best Heavy Metal Video for Sweet Child O' Mine, the inaugural award in that category. The twist nobody predicted? Motley Crue was chosen to present the award. Of all presenters, MTV put these two bands on stage together. The footage is surreal, knowing what's coming. Vince Neil, Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, Mick Mars walk out, all smiles. Duff McKagan and Steven Adler except for Guns N' Roses. Handshakes, high fives, everyone playing nice for cameras. Duff and Steven probably had no idea what Vince was planning. The rest of Motley Crue left right after, limo waiting outside. But Vince didn't get in. He told bandmates he'd be right back. Nobody thought anything of it. Vince disappeared back into the venue. Later, Guns N' Roses performed with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Axl Rose and Izzy joined Tom Petty for Free Fallin', then Heartbreak Hotel to close the show. A massive moment. The crowd was wild. Everything seemed perfect. But backstage, in the darkness offstage left, Vince Neil was waiting, standing there the whole time, watching, waiting for the moment Izzy would walk off that stage. Some say Vince was huffing and puffing, working himself up. Others say he was ice cold, completely focused. Either way, he wasn't leaving until this was done. Alan Niven, Guns N' Roses manager, remembered clearly, walking off the brightly lit stage into darkness. Suddenly, Vince came running over. No warning, just came out of nowhere. In the dirt, Vince described Izzy in that moment like a cross between Eric Stoltz in Mask and Neil Young. Thin, scraggly, disheveled. Vince had been imagining this confrontation for months. Now, finally, it was happening. The words came first. Vince got in Izzy's face. "You F-King hit my wife," not a question, an accusation, a challenge. According to Vince, Izzy's response was the final straw. So F-King what? Complete dismissal. Like what happened to Sharise didn't matter at all. That's when Vince lost it. All the blood rushed into his fist. Months of rage, anger, humiliation, all focused into one point. Vince swung, decked Izzy right in the face. According to Vince, Izzy fell to the ground like a tipped cow. Went down hard. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row was standing stageside watching. He saw Vince's gold bracelet fly off his wrist from the force. This massive piece of jewelry just launched off. Sebastian said Vince was huffing and puffing, adrenaline pumping. Sebastian picked up the bracelet, said, "Dude, I've got your bracelet." Vince told him keep it. In that moment, Vince didn't care about anything except what he'd just done. But here's where it gets chaotic. Jim Lenahan, Tom Petty's sound guy, saw the whole thing. Didn't know Izzy, didn't know the backstory. Just saw some guy punch someone he was working with. So Jim Lenahan decked Vince right back. Boom. Instant karma. Then Alan Niven jumped in, grabbed Vince, threw him on the floor. Niven described putting his left hand around Vince's throat, cocking his right hand back, ready to smash Vince's nose. For a split second, Niven had a moment of thought. If I do this, this won't be good. So he let Vince up. Message sent. Vince's bodyguard pulled him away, trying to get him out before things escalated. They were heading toward the exit, thinking it was over. But it wasn't. Axl Rose came storming after them. Multiple people described Axl like an overdressed Doberman. Snarling, furious, ready to fight. "Come on, motherfucker. I'm gonna F-King kill you," Axl yelled at Vince's back. He wasn't letting someone punch his bandmate and walk away. Vince turned around. According to his account, Axl's face was sweaty, twisted with rage. Vince said, "Let's F-King go." He was ready to fight Axl right there. But then, Vince claims Axl backed down, claims Axl squeaked like a little bitch and said, "Just don't FK with my band again, okay?" Then walked away. That's Vince's version. One more detail about the punch itself. How hard did Vince actually hit Izzy? Vince claims he dropped him like a tipped cow, but Izzy later said he just got grazed by Vince's ring. Barely felt it. Tom Petty said Izzy was getting a lot of black eyes in those days. Might have already had one before Vince hit him. So the damage, the actual impact, that's disputed too. What's not disputed is the punch happened in front of dozens of witnesses at the MTV Video Music Awards, and it set off a feud that would define both bands for years. What happened next turned into a full-blown media circus. Axl Rose went on the offensive immediately. In interviews, he mocked Vince's punch, said Izzy laughed because Vince had a full-on free shot and hit like a powder puff. That phrase, powder puff, became Axl's go-to insult. But Axl didn't stop there. He challenged Vince to a fight, anytime, anywhere. Atlantic City, I don't care. We'll put money on it. He was dead serious. In one interview with British journalist Mick Wall in 1990, Axl was pacing his West Hollywood home, still furious, told Mick that Vince was going to get a good butt whipping and he was the boy to give it. Then Axl said something that made headlines, told Vince he could choose the method. Guns, knives, or fists, whatever you want, I don't care. That's the gauntlet, and I'm throwing it down. Think about that. One of the biggest rock stars in the world openly challenging another to potentially lethal combat. That's how intense this got, how personal it became. Vince responded in kind. About a year later, went on MTV, turned to the camera, said Axl had been talking bad and making threats for years. "Axl, if you're watching, I want to challenge you to a fight. I'm giving you the time and place, there's no backing out. Time to put up or shut up." Vince got specific. He wanted to do it at an arena where people could see, wanted it televised, wanted the whole world to watch, treating it like professional wrestling, like pay-per-view. Absurd and deadly serious at once. Rumors flew about where this might happen. Some said Vince wanted the Forum in Inglewood. Other reports said Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen offered to fund the fight at Madison Square Garden. It sounds insane, but people took it seriously. Axl responded calling Vince a puppet looking for a publicity stunt. The back and forth got petty, personal, ugly. Then Axl did something more aggressive. On Use Your Illusion 2, there's a song called Shotgun Blues. People immediately recognized it as a diss track aimed at Vince. The lyrics were vicious, mocking, dripping with contempt. Axl wasn't just fighting in interviews, he was putting it on record, making it permanent. But the fight never happened. For all the challenges, all the posturing, all the venues suggested, Vince and Axl never threw down. Vince claimed Axl kept sending messengers with meeting locations. Tower Records parking lot, Venice Beach boardwalk. According to Vince, He accepted every challenge, showed up, and Axl chickened out about half a dozen times. Axl never corroborated any of that, and that's where it stayed. Two massive egos, both convinced the other was a coward, neither willing to back down but also neither willing to make it happen. The fight became mythical, talked about but never seen. The feud simmered, never really ended, just faded as both bands dealt with their own problems. But every few years something brought it back. Here's the detail almost nobody talks about. After the punch, after initial chaos, Izzy Stradlin allegedly called Vince Neil to apologize. That's what Vince claimed in the dirt. Izzy picked up the phone, said he was sorry for what happened at the Cathouse. Whether full apology or damage control, whether Izzy admitted guilt or just smoothed things over, that part isn't clear. But there was supposedly some conversation where Izzy acknowledged he'd been out of line. If true, it raises a huge question. Why did the feud continue? Why did Axl and Vince keep going at each other if Izzy apologized? The answer probably comes down to ego and momentum. The story got too big. Media loved it. Fans picked sides. Backing down looked weak. So even if the original issue was resolved, the feud took on its own life. By 1991, Izzy left Guns N' Roses. Substance issues, desire to get clean, frustration with band chaos, especially Axl's behavior. Without Izzy in the band, the original conflict became more distant, just Axl carrying the torch. In 1993, Vince and Sharise divorced. Their marriage, at the center of this incident, fell apart. Whatever happened at the Cathouse, whatever the punch meant, none of it saved their relationship. But the story didn't die. It became rock mythology, one of those legendary moments defining an era. Every so often, it resurfaced. In 2009, Guns N' Roses released Chinese Democracy. Vince immediately criticized it, calling it a flop. In 2014, Axl was named world's greatest singer. Vince tweeted, "News just said Axl Rose is greatest singer of all time. LOL. Deleted it shortly after, but damage done. The pattern continued. Anytime one had something happen, the other took a shot, almost ritualistic. A reminder that no matter how much time passed, that night at the VMAs was never really resolved. And then, decades later, everything changed for Vince. Vince Neil is 64 now. Born February 8, 1961, he's lived a life most can't imagine. The highs of rock stardom, lows of addiction and legal troubles, tragedies including his daughter Skylar's death, the wild success of Motley Crue reunion tours. But nothing prepared him for Christmas 2024. Vince went to bed Christmas night feeling fine, woke up next morning and his whole left side was gone. Couldn't move his leg, arm wasn't working, needed help getting out of bed. Vince Neil was having a stroke, a serious one. His girlfriend Rain's aunt, a nurse, recognized signs immediately, but by the time they got help, the critical window for stroke medication passed. The damage was done. Vince later learned this wasn't his first stroke, it was his fourth. Two he didn't even know happened. Minor strokes causing temporary symptoms he just pushed through. Doctors told Vince he probably wouldn't go back on stage. Performing days were over, but Vince refused to accept that. Started physical therapy immediately. Went from needing people to carry him to bathroom to wheelchair to walker to cane to nothing. Learned to walk again, run again. Months of work, months of pain, but Vince was determined. By September 2025, Motley Crue started their Las Vegas residency at Dolby Live. Shows supposed to happen in March were postponed because of Vince's stroke. But now, against medical advice, Vince was back. Said he was 90 to 95% recovered. Still things he can't do on stage. That huge stage is hard to run across, but he's doing it anyway. So what does Vince think about that punch now? About Izzy? About the feud? About that night in 1989? He hasn't given recent interviews specifically addressing it, but his actions speak volumes. Vince fought back from devastating stroke because performing matters more than anything. The music, the stage, the connection with fans drives him. Looking back at that era, at the Sunset Strip in glory days, at the excess and violence and code of honor everyone lived by, it feels like a different world. Sebastian Bach said it perfectly. If somebody said something bad about your band, you were obliged to punch him. It was considered totally appropriate. That's not how the world works anymore. But in 1989, in that specific place and time, that was reality. Was the punch justified? Depends on what you believe happened at the Cathouse. If you believe Sharice's account, that Izzy assaulted and kicked her, then Vince was defending his wife the only way that world understood. If you believe Izzy's account, that Sharise came onto him and he pushed her away, then Vince overreacted. The truth probably lives somewhere in the middle, in that gray area where drunk decisions and bruised egos and conflicting memories collide. What we know for sure is one punch changed everything, defined a feud lasting decades, became part of rock mythology. represented an era when rock stars settled differences with fists instead of lawyers, showed that even at fame's peak, these were still humans with emotions, families to protect, pride that could be wounded. At 64, after surviving strokes, learning to walk again, defying doctors who said performing days were over, maybe Vince sees that night differently. Maybe he has regrets. Maybe he'd do it all over again, exactly the same. We don't know for sure. But what we do know is this: that punch mattered, not just because it was shocking or involved two of the biggest bands. It mattered because it was real. In an industry full of manufactured feuds and publicity stunts, Vince Neil punching Izzy Stradlin was genuine, raw emotion, instant consequences, and a legacy that outlived glam metal itself. The Sunset Strip isn't what it used to be. The Cathouse is long gone. Most legendary clubs closed or changed. Bands aged, some members passed, and the industry transformed beyond recognition. But that night at the VMAs, September 6, 1989, that moment lives on, frozen in time, preserved in interviews and autobiography and eyewitness accounts. Whether you think Vince was right or wrong, whether you believe his version or Izzy's, one thing is undeniable. When Vince Neil saw Izzy Stradlin walking off that stage, all the blood rushed into his fist, and he made a choice. He threw that punch knowing the world was watching, and 36 years later, we're still talking about it. That's the real story. That's what really happened, and that's why it still matters.